Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
What is going on, guys? How you guys all doing? Again, this is the Club of the Man 1993, back here for another WWE 24 documentary review, as we are now watching the second episode in this series, which is called Booker T, Sentenced to Greatness. As we do, well, up until 2015, I believe this documentary was released. Up until his days when he was a Raw commentator, we look back at how Booker T got from his childhood and what he dealt with growing up, and to where he ended up being, to then get into wrestling, and then eventually becoming commentator. Well, really, despite the fact that it showed that he was a commentator at spurts throughout this brief documentary, it really was from, growing up to when he got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013. And kind of the importance of that night to him as well. Now, I know for the WrestleMania 31, I said that with it being a half an hour, they probably could have given it more time. I feel like this one especially, they could have given it more time. This definitely was more than just a half hour documentary. This needed to be like an hour. And, I don't know if there's any other, documentaries on Booker T. Huffman, but definitely this one was just scratching the surface, basically, of his life, what he went through. But I think you at least got the gist of his life outside of the ring and his story, how he became where it was. I feel like there was some pieces missing, so I did take some notes, doing some research before I did this review. But Booker T, we all know, is from Houston, Texas. He grew up in like an area called South Park, and his brother is a wrestler as well, Stevie Ray. I think his real name is Lash Huffman, I believe what it is. And he had quite a few siblings. I don't think he ever met his dad. I think his dad died when he was very young, so he really didn't have a relationship with his dad. His mother, though, died of some complications from, I think, a back surgery or some sort of surgery. I think when he was about 13 years old, so still very young. So at the time, he went to go live with, I think, his older sister, and eventually he was taken care of by his brother, Stevie Ray. I think at times he was, because of his mom's health issues, was more so taken care of by his siblings growing up. Unfortunately, though, that was during a time when Booker was just kind of hanging around the wrong people, it seemed like. And they didn't go into much details about it, but Booker T was arrested when he at a young age. I think I read somewhere it was due to some sort of like an armed robbery at a Wendy's or something like that. And he originally, I think they said in the documentary, was sentenced to 5 to 99 years in prison. Yow. Which is why, of course, they call it Sentenced to Greatness, because that's where Booker's life changed. His brother was always encouraging to him, saying, you're going to get out of here and you're going to, be something more than you thought you ever were. So Booker T, I couldn't find all the details on it, but he was only in jail for 19 months. And when he got out of jail, Stevie Ray took him under his wing, and then they went into wrestling, and their careers began back in 1990. I believe he didn't get to sign a WCW until 1993, where the first 4 years he spent with his tag team with his brother as Harlem Heat. I think they're like a 6 or 8 time tag team champions. They were Harlem Heat. They were inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019, because that was at the WrestleMania that I went to, WrestleMania 35. They were inducted there as a tag team. Booker, though, was inducted as a single star into the Hall of Fame in 2013. which, funny enough, both of those were in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So same location for both Hall of Fame inductees for the two-time Hall of Fame inductee Booker T. But later we all learned that he's a five-time WCW World Champion. Of course, he would go on to be a 6-time World Champion when he won the World Heavyweight Championship as King Booker in 2006. I think he won the title. I think he had taken it from Rey Mysterio, I think. If I remember correctly. I'm not sure. But I just think it was. He also had a guy, I didn't get to look up much information about him, but a guy named Bruce Gassick, I think what his name is, which I believe was kind of like a mentor to him, like a business partner, or like someone who seemingly like kind of helped guide Booker in the right direction outside of the ring, pretty much. I didn't get to look into much detail what his exact, term he was, but he did play a huge part in Booker T's journey as well, as he was mentioned several times. We also, of course, learned about the origins of the Spinaroonie. He literally just did it as just a fun dance move, and then it didn't get a name Spinaroonie until he went to WCW and Mark Madden calling it the Spinaroonie. Also, Census Sherry, not Sensational Sherry, well, same person, but Census Sherry was as well like the valet with Harlem Heat. Of course, we all know he eventually would, finish up with WCW. Well, on the last night WCW was a company, Booker T actually won the United States Championship, the WCW United States Championship. So he actually closed the doors on WCW, went into WWE as a dual champion. I didn't know that, actually, which is also very impressive. He would go to WWE. Of course, he he would, of course, right before his WrestleMania 19 match with Triple H, which he should have won because of, the storyline and, what Triple H said. It was during that time, though, that he was inspired by Jim Ross to open up about his past, where he did first share with everybody that he was once in prison. And reveal why, which, kind of helped, people get behind him, because it's an inspiration to show that, hey, you could be, at one point, making a big mistake and being in jail, but you can come back from it and be sort of like an inspiration to do so. They just highlighted a few different things, like when he first got to WWE, his first feud was actually with Stone Cold Steve Austin during the Invasion angle. Also, he briefly tag teamed with Goldust, that they try to recreate years later with R-Truth and Goldust. The Golden Truth, we all know that absolutely sucked, but whatever. He also mentioned how he started the five time chant. It literally just happened while he was just driving a truck. He was at a red light, and a kid pulled up next to him, and his dad was driving. The kid sees Booker T, so he starts going like, and off that, Booker T got inspired to do the five chant, as he would always do. The big thing that kind of was like the falling action and led to, of course, the wrap up, is that they mentioned that when him and his brother went to start the wrestling school, that Booker T, of course, would go on to do most of the work with. I don't know if his brother ever did get into it or not, but I know, of course, at first he didn't. But several people, of course, went to Booker T's wrestling school. One person I do know is former WWE superstar Ember Moon, now Athena in AEW / Ring of Honor. But it was during that time where Booker T and Stevie Ray had a fallout. And it was because they both didn't see eye to eye on the vision for the wrestling school. And because of that, I didn't know this either, Booker T and Stevie Ray were estranged from each other for 5 years, apparently. That's sad. And just to, fast forward and toward the end, even though I had something else I wanted to mention, apparently he didn't reunite with his brother until he got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013. And when that happened, he called the family and said he wants everyone to be there, and even called his brother Stevie Ray. And Stevie Ray was the one who did induct him. And that was kind of where they kind of like, reunited, forgave each other, and, they, just patched things up. Which, of course, is a great story to hear for sure, because, how could you go that long without talking to your brother? Especially someone who, like, took you under his wing, especially when, they lost both parents very young. It's like, they all they had was each other, like, all the siblings and whatnot, and it was hard for all of them whenever Booker and Stevie Ray weren't talking to each other. The only other thing that I wanted to mention that was really noteworthy was, he did marry Sharmell. They met each other when they were filmed Ready to Rumble, and I remember Sharmell mentioned what stood out about Booker was that he always seemed very professional, but then of course would find out how silly he can be and whatnot. But they dated for 5 years before they got married in 2005, which was around the time when he became King Booker. So it was King Booker and Queen Sharmell, which fit in well for Sharmell because of her history of being in pageants and modeling and such also. So that's where we got the all hail King Booker! And it was basically because he made it seem like that he was getting ready to hang it up. Because around this time he was getting burned out, but it looked like the King Booker and Queen Sharmell was kind of like the last thing that gave him like a little bit of energy to continue on a little bit, because he would leave. They didn't touch on this in the documentary, but just when I read some of his history, just to get some unanswered questions this documentary had in there, he did leave WWE in 2007 and went to TNA. Would return back, but he would more transition to like commentary and backstage analyst and whatnot, which is kind of what he does now, except he is now on commentary in NXT. But of course, they didn't touch on that. This was 2015. But yeah, him and Sharmell's run was kind of like a refueling. They do have twins, Kendrick and Kennedy. They did mention that he did have another child, which at the time he was 32, so he's probably like in his early 40s now. But another son he had with another girl years ago. I think around the time he had him, sometime right before he started wrestling. I can't remember when they said it was, but I thought they said he was 32 at the time, in 2015, his son. But I could have heard that wrong, so who knows. But yeah, that's all I really got to say. Like I said, it was definitely short. They didn't really, touch on as much as they could have, I felt, in this documentary, which why eventually, like, the longer ones, which I think there's still a couple, I know the next one's a half an hour. I feel like after that, maybe when they started getting a little bit longer, like 45 minutes to an hour, as most of them would be from then on out, they do get better as far as, like, what they do, what information they share and whatnot. But I thought this was good. But like I said, it felt like they rushed and missed over some key parts in his career. But still, a good watch for sure. Booker T sentenced to greatness. Because him going to jail was what, kind of, turn him around. He made some changes after, a rough childhood he had, losing both his parents. And I said, now he's a two-time Hall of Famer. And, yep, that's my review of Booker T sentenced to greatness. What were your guys' thoughts on this documentary on Booker T? Leave your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure also, as always, to slap a like on a video and subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well at The Club of the Man 93. You may also follow me on TikTok and Instagram, The Club of the Man 1993. I believe the next one is about Roman Reigns. I believe it's called Roman Reigns Never Alone, One versus All, like something along those lines, because it was right around the time when Roman was getting ready to main event WrestleMania for the first time. Now, we all know, of course, that's when he was getting rejected as a babyface, especially when it first started happening. We'll talk about that in the next video in this series. So until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch y'all later. And do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah! Wait a minute. No. This one, we need to end with, instead of LA Knights, we got to end with Booker T going, "Can you dig that, sucker?"